Good morning. I'm coming again to you to talk about the Ukrainian war. It's been one of my chief concerns for almost 3 years. And now with Trump's electoral victory, electoral sweep, I'd like to talk to you about the possible outcomes of this war. To start off with, I think Russia has failed, utterly failed in achieving its maximalist goals, that is, of taking over Ukraine, or at least removing its government and replacing it with a puppet state. I think in that Russia has failed. Russia, in fact, has created a Ukrainian nationalism that is virulently anti-Russian, and that will continue. I don't think, given the restraints on military mobilization that Putin faces, with the drastic political consequences, catastrophic political consequences that entails, I don't think Putin will be able to conquer Ukraine. Um, and the front lines are basically static. They are not going to move too much. In fact, you see analysts being very alarmist in terms of Russian advances lately. But if you look at the overall strategic picture, Russia has only advanced about 1,000 kilometers in a nation that is the size of Texas. Um, and in doing so, it has lost the last count of casualties, that is, dead, wounded, captured, and deserted. It's about 719,000 Russians. And I think it's even more than that. It says two things: that Russia is suffering catastrophic losses in order to advance a few kilometers. And it also says that Russia is willing to suffer, or at least Putin is willing to suffer these, just apocalyptic losses in order to get a acceptable end to the war. I don't think either will. I don't think he will achieve it. I think if you look at it, if Trump freezes the lines as they are, I think Putin will refuse to negotiate on that basis, because he doesn't control four of the oblasts he annexed last year, and therefore frozen lines would not give him what he desperately needs in order to accommodate minimal goals of the special military operation. But no one in Russia will consider even the full annexation of two eastern or any of the eastern oblasts as a victory. Everyone in Russia realizes, particularly the elite, they realize that Putin's overall goals have not been achieved. In fact, he's strengthened NATO. NATO is now 32 nations strong. And even with Trump stepping in and forcing negotiations, which again, I don't think Russia will accept. I think that will not give him victory, and it will not give him a victory in the eyes of his elite or the Russian people. In addition to that, Trump may be Putin's worst nightmare. That is, he might inadvertently destroy the Russian Federation. That is, if Trump can get oil down to $40 a barrel, and the United States has excess production capabilities that Trump is looking at expanding to 100% production. If the excess capabilities of the United States are brought online, oil might get to $40 a barrel, which would mean that Russia, which fully depends on its oil and LNG, liquefied natural gas sales, will drown. It will be American production will be poison to Russia. And even though Russia may be able to produce more oil if Trump lifts its sanctions, the United States is not going to buy either oil from Russia or LNG while it's producing these massive volumes of those things. And no one else is likely to buy Russian oil. Even China and India have cut back on that. So the Russian economy may just collapse whether or not Trump lifts sanctions. He should not lift sanctions. He should force the Russians to come to the negotiating table and accept a just peace on the basis of sanctions and so on. But I think if everything that Trump has promised actually happens, then the economic collapse of Russia is not too far behind. And militarily, I mean, though Russia is willing to take just incredible, catastrophic, apocalyptic losses, there's just a limit. And that limit may be reached sometime in 2025, which means that Russia has very little time to achieve any kind of breakthrough. And I just don't see how a breakthrough is going to happen. In fact, Russia has about 1,000 square miles of its own territory in Kursk, controlled by the Ukrainians. So, as I said in the beginning of this war 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago, I think Russia miscalculated, and it is now in a quagmire. Whether it retains some Ukrainian territory, it will not have achieved political success or military success in any way that is acceptable to the Russian people or the Russian elite. And I don't think Putin will survive that. Once the fighting is done, I think the consequences of a failed war will come to the fore without the the moderating sense of nationalism in Russia. That is, you support the government as long as the war goes on, but after that, there'll be some reckoning. And with 719,000 dead, wounded, or captured or deserted on November 16th, I think he has a lot to answer for. Of course, the fact that he's used, contract troops for the most part has saved him for a long time, and the fact that he has no collegial leadership but is basically a one-man show has also saved him from a coup. But I think once the war is no longer a factor, I think that there will be consequences for Putin, and I think he will be either retired, literally, or retired, or figuratively as being killed, is a definite possibility. I think it's more than a definite possibility. So I am less pessimistic than most, although I am concerned that Trump will not continue military assistance to the Ukrainians, although $7 billion is going to go to Ukraine in military assistance while the Biden administration remains. That is until January 20th, which will stiffen, I think, the Ukrainians for some time. And after that, you have elections in Germany, and the Christian Democratic Union is likely to win. Its leader has already said that he will support Ukraine militarily, much more so than the current government of Olaf Scholz. The French seem to be significantly revving up support. And Poland. Poland is the most important nation in the whole scheme of things because it shares a border with Ukraine. And as long as Poland continues to support Ukraine, I think it'll be impossible for Russia to win without massive mobilization of its troops. And I don't think Putin can do that. I think it'll be catastrophic. I think even with the war going on, if he mobilizes, fully mobilizes the Russian military, the Russian populace, I think he will be overthrown. And in terms of his nuclear threats, that is a non-starter. He will never use nuclear weapons. That's a given. So I am slightly more optimistic, even with Trump calling for the end to Ukrainian military assistance. I think Europe has to step up. I think Poland has to remain a staunch supporter of Ukraine. And I think Trump's economic policies, particularly energy self-sufficiency in the United States, will prove poison to the Russian Federation. So if you like what you've heard, if you found it useful, please subscribe to the channel. It helps a lot. Thank you very much, and goodbye.